Hey there, ready to get bendy. I figured you might be here to finally conquer those tight hamstrings. Maybe even touch your toes or just level up your gym game a bit.
Yeah.
Well, today we're taking a deep dive into the world of flexibility.
Awesome.
We're dissecting a popular fitness podcast episode that blew my mind with some of the science behind stretching.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
It really challenges some of the assumptions we have about flexibility.
Yeah, I went in thinking I knew a thing or two about stretching, but I learned a lot. For instance, have you ever wondered if those pre-workout stretches are actually doing more harm than good?
It's a question worth exploring. The idea that stretching prevents injuries is widespread.
Right.
But the relationship between flexibility and injury prevention is much more complex.
So it's not as simple as stretch and you're invincible.
Not quite. While flexibility is definitely important for healthy joints, the podcast highlighted that it's not the be-all and end-all of injury prevention.
Right.
Often, injuries stem from things like poor form during exercise, existing muscle imbalances, or simply pushing yourself too hard too fast.
That makes sense. I've definitely been guilty of doing those static stretches before lifting weights, holding a hamstring stretch forever. But honestly, I can't say it's made a noticeable difference in preventing injuries.
And there's a reason for that. The podcast actually cites research indicating that static stretching right before a workout could temporarily reduce your strength and power.
Interesting. So those classic stretches might be working against us?
Potentially. If you're looking to prep your body for exercise, dynamic stretches where you're actively moving seem to be a better option. Think leg swings or arm circles, those kinds of things.
That's a good point. I guess it's like your muscles need to ease into things, not be forced into a stretch cold.
Exactly. So save the static stretches for after your workout or for dedicated flexibility sessions.
Okay, so we've debunked that first myth about stretching being a guaranteed injury shield. But what about this idea that stretching alone is the key to amazing mobility?
Yeah.
I'll admit, I've fallen for that one.
It's a tempting thought.
Yeah.
But true mobility isn't just about how far you can stretch. It's about having strength and control throughout your entire range of motion.
Right.
Stretching helps lengthen muscles, but you need more than that.
So stretching is just one piece of the puzzle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like having a long rope. It doesn't matter how long it is, if you lack the strength to actually pull anything with it, you need the strength to effectively utilize that increased range of motion. That's where things like active mobility exercises come in.
Active mobility exercises, what exactly are we talking about here?
These are movements that challenge your strength and coordination while you're in a stretched position. The podcast specifically mentioned controlled articular rotations, or CARs.
CARs. All right, break that down for me.
It sounds more complicated than it is. Essentially, you're taking your joints through their full range of motion slowly and with control. Imagine shoulder circles, where you really focus on moving smoothly and hitting every angle or ankle rotations, where you emphasize that dorsiflexion.
So it's like a moving stretch with an extra emphasis on control.
That's a great way to put it. And you can get creative with this. Instead of just static stretching, think about incorporating things like Cossack squats, which challenge hip mobility and strength, or flowing through yoga poses that require balance and control while you stretch.
I'm starting to see how it all ties together. Strength, control, and flexibility working in unison.
Precisely. It's about moving better in everyday life. Not just touching your toes for the sake of it.
So it's not just about flexibility for the sake of flexibility, about how that flexibility translates into functional strength and control in our daily lives. Which leads us to another big question. Should we be stretching every muscle every day? It seems like a lot.
That's another common misconception.
Okay.
Much like anything else, too much of a good thing can backfire.
Right.
Overstretching, especially muscles that are already loose, can actually create imbalances.
Okay.
And might even increase your risk of injury.
So it's more about quality over quantity and zeroing in on what your body actually needs.
Absolutely. The podcast recommends focusing on areas that feel stiff or restrict your movement.
Okay.
Maybe spending 5 to 10 minutes on those specific areas.
I think we're all guilty of neglecting certain areas.
Yeah.
I know I tend to hyperfocus on my hamstrings and completely forget about my hips.
That's very common.
Yeah.
Those tight hips can actually contribute to those tight hamstrings. It's all connected. The key is to listen to your body and focus on the areas that need the most attention.
Great advice. Now, let's talk about that image we've all seen at the gym. People holding stretches forever.
Right.
Is that really necessary?
You're picturing someone contorted into a pretzel, holding their breath until their face turns red.
Right, exactly. But is that truly the most effective way to stretch?
Not necessarily. While holding static stretches does improve flexibility, the research suggests 15 to 30 seconds is usually sufficient.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
I've definitely been holding those stretches way longer, thinking that was the only way to make progress.
We've all been there. But there are other techniques that could be even more efficient, like PNF stretching.
PNF, that sounds familiar, but refresh my memory.
PNF stands for proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation.
Oh, right.
In simple terms, you're contracting and relaxing the muscle you're stretching.
Okay, give me an example.
Imagine you're doing a hamstring stretch. With PNF, you'd first contract your hamstring for about 5 seconds, then relax and deepen the stretch. This cycle of contracting and relaxing, essentially, helps your nervous system reset and allows you to achieve a deeper stretch in a shorter amount of time.
So it's almost like tricking your muscles into relaxing a little more. What's actually happening at a neurological level when we do PNF stretching?
That's a great question. What's fascinating is that when you contract a muscle, you're activating something called the Golgi tendon organ, which is a sensory receptor located where your muscle and tendon meet. This receptor essentially tells your nervous system, hey, this muscle's working hard, let's loosen things up a bit to prevent injury. So when you relax after the contraction, your muscle is able to stretch further because your nervous system has temporarily reduced its resistance.
Oh, I never knew that.
It's cool.
So by consciously contracting the muscle, we're sending a signal to our nervous system to chill out a bit and allow for a deeper stretch.
Oh, exactly.
And this can be incredibly effective, especially if you're short on time or just don't enjoy holding those long static stretches.
Right.
I love that. Working smarter, not harder. Man.
Absolutely.
All right, ready to tackle another myth. This one's a bit of a tough one, especially as we get older. It's the idea that flexibility peaks when you're young.
Right.
As if once you hit a certain age, you're doomed to be stiff and creaky forever. Is there any truth to that?
Thankfully, that's a myth that deserves to be shattered.
Okay.
While it's true that we naturally lose some flexibility as we age, the podcast emphasized that regular stretching and mobility work can improve your range of motion at any stage of life.
That's incredibly reassuring to hear. I think many people resign themselves to stiffness as they get older, believing it's just an inevitable part of aging.
It doesn't have to be. The research is quite clear. Older adults who incorporate regular stretching into their routines experience less stiffness and better overall movement.
That's inspiring. It's almost like pushing back against the natural aging process.
In a way, it's about maintaining your ability to move freely and comfortably, regardless of age. It's empowering to know that we have some control over how we age and how we move.
I love that. So, what's happening physiologically? Why does stretching work even as we age?
Stretching helps maintain joint health and keeps those muscles elastic. Think of it like keeping the tissues supple and hydrated. It's not just about touching your toes. It's about preserving your body's ability to move gracefully and efficiently.
Okay, so we've debunked 5 major stretching myths, but this podcast episode went beyond just myths.
It did.
It dove into some surprising benefits of stretching that go beyond just flexibility. Care to unpack those?
Absolutely. This is where it gets really interesting. One of the major perks they highlight is how stretching can significantly aid in recovery.
Okay, so not like a magical cure for post-workout soreness, because I think we've all wished for that at some point.
Right. It's not a magic eraser for soreness. But what stretching does do is improve circulation, helping to flesh out metabolic byproducts and deliver nutrients to those tired muscles more effectively.
The podcast also mentioned foam rolling and active recovery. How do those practices fit into the picture?
They're great additions to your recovery toolbox. Foam rolling can help release muscle tension and improve flexibility, and active recovery such as a light walk or swim, keeps things moving without adding further stress to your muscles.
I'm sensing a theme here. Movement is key.
Exactly. Stagnation is the enemy of recovery.
Okay.
Keeping things moving, even gently, can make a big difference.
Noted. Now, this next benefit is one I think a lot of people might not even consider. Stretching can actually help manage stress.
Right.
That's a new one for me.
It might sound surprising, but there's a real physiological connection. Stretching, especially when combined with deep, mindful breathing, activates your parasympathetic nervous system.
For those of us who aren't science whizzes, remind us what the parasympathetic nervous system does.
It's essentially your body's rest and digest mode.
Okay.
The opposite of that fight or flight response we experience when stressed. When you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, your heart rate slows, muscles relax, and your body starts to calm down.
So it's like hitting the chill button for your entire system.
Precisely. And the podcast even highlighted studies showing that stretching can lower cortisol levels.
Cortisol being that notorious stress hormone we're always hearing about.
That's the one.
Okay.
By lowering cortisol, stretching can help reduce feelings of anxiety and tension, promoting a sense of calm and well-being.
I can see why so many people swear by yoga for stress relief. It makes a lot of sense now.
It's an incredibly powerful tool.
Yeah.
And you don't need a full yoga class to reap those benefits. Even a few minutes of gentle stretching before bed can make a huge difference in your sleep quality and your overall sense of relaxation.
I'm starting to feel more relaxed just thinking about it. It's interesting how we often compartmentalize things. Physical benefits over here, mental and emotional benefits over there.
Right.
But it's all connected, isn't it?
Absolutely. Our physical state influences our mental and emotional state and vice versa.
Right.
Taking care of our bodies through movement and stretching has ripple effects that extend far beyond just physical flexibility.
Yeah.
It impacts our mood, our energy levels, our sleep, and even our ability to manage stress.
I'm definitely feeling inspired to incorporate more stretching into my routine, not just for the physical benefits, but for that sense of calm and well-being it can bring.
Yeah.
It sounds like a win-win.
It truly is. It's about creating a holistic approach to well-being, recognizing that our physical, mental, and emotional states are intricately intertwined.
This deep dive has given me a whole new perspective on stretching.
Awesome.
I'm so glad we had the chance to explore this topic in depth.
It's been a fascinating journey.
So we've busted some major stretching myths, explored the science behind flexibility, and uncovered some unexpected benefits that go way beyond just physical mobility. What's next? Where do we go from here?
Well, I think it's time to put this knowledge into action.
You're right. We've talked the talk. Now let's walk the walk, so to speak. What's one actionable step our listeners can take today to improve their flexibility?
I love that idea.
So many people get overwhelmed thinking they need to overhaul their entire routine.
Yeah.
But starting small can be incredibly powerful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about building sustainable habits, not temporary fixes.
For our listener who are ready to take that first step, what's a good starting point?
I'd say pick one area that feels particularly tight.
Okay.
Maybe it's your hamstrings, hips, or shoulders. Then spend just 5 minutes experimenting with the stretches we've discussed. See how it feels. Pay attention to your body's signals. And don't push yourself too hard.
That's great advice. Small, consistent efforts can lead to big changes over time.
For sure.
And remember, quality over quantity. 5 minutes of focused, mindful stretching can be more effective than 30 minutes of half-hearted attempts.
Couldn't agree more. Be patient with yourself. Listen to your body. And most importantly, enjoy the process. Stretching shouldn't feel like a chore. It should be a way to connect with your body, release tension, and cultivate a sense of well-being.
Beautifully said. Now, before we let our listeners go, I have one final thought-provoking question for you to ponder. Imagine you could wave a magic wand and instantly improve your flexibility. What other areas of your life do you think would be positively impacted?
That's a wonderful question. It really highlights how interconnected our bodies are with everything we do.
Right.
Increased flexibility might mean more energy for those hikes you've been wanting to take.
Yeah.
Or maybe it would give you the confidence to try that dance class you've been eyeing.
Maybe you'd sit at your desk with less pain, or you'd be able to move with more ease and play with your kids or grandkids without feeling stiff and restricted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
And that's what I find so fascinating about this topic.
Yeah.
Flexibility isn't just about physical limitations. It's about unlocking potential in all areas of our lives. Our energy levels, our mood, our confidence, our ability to move through the world with grace and ease.
It's about reclaiming that youthful sense of freedom and possibility in our movements. I love that.
Me too. It's a reminder that our bodies are capable of incredible things at any age.
So as you go about your day, I encourage you to pay attention to how your body feels.
Yeah.
Notice those areas where you feel stiff,
right,
restricted, or just a little bit stuck. And then take a few moments to stretch, to breathe, and to reconnect with your body's incredible ability to move.
Remember, even small, consistent efforts can create a ripple effect, transforming not just your physical well-being, but your overall experience of life.
That's a powerful thought to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of flexibility. I hope you learned something new, felt inspired, and maybe even stretched a little bit while listening. Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and keep stretching.